It is entitled, I Will Always Think of Thee.
Every morning when I greet the sun, when I move forth through crowded ways, in my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. When I laugh, oh, and when I cry with pain, when my best friends misunderstand, in my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. Dear God, my God, I am Thine for eternity. Dear God, my God, I am Thine eternally. Though my path lead me over desert sands, though it take me through bitter storms, in my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. When I'm working and when in earned repose, let come victory or low defeat, in my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. Dear God, my God, I am Thine for eternity. Dear God, my God, I am Thine eternally.
Please join us.
Dear God, my God, I am Thine for eternity. Dear God, my God, I am Thine eternally.
The One Light. These are weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. This week, it's a good one. The promise of the scriptures. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. In the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 15, we read the famous parable of the prodigal son. Jesus tells of the man who took the wealth bestowed on him by his father and squandered it in foreign lands where he fell into evil ways. At last, repentant, he returned to his father's home. When his father saw him, he was, Jesus tells us, moved with compassion, and ran and fell upon his neck and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I've sinned against heaven and before thee. I'm no longer worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, Fetch quickly the best robe and put it on him, and give him a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet, and bring out the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and make merry, because this my son was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and is found. And they began to make merry. Small-hearted human beings, identified as they are with their little egos, give exaggerated importance to any slight they receive from others, and thus they imagine God, like them, to be petty and unpardoning and vindictive. In God's eyes, however, when human beings go astray, there's nothing to forgive. All of us are aspects only of his own self. He who made us resides in us. He's not far away from us in some far-off heaven. His call to us always is to return to our home within. The way of return is described in the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter. Supreme blessedness is that yogi's who has completely calmed his mind, controlled his ego-active tendencies, or rajas, and purged himself of desire, thereby attaining oneness with Brahma, the infinite spirit. And thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
It's nice to see you all this morning. We want to thank you for coming and being here. For those of you who don't know us, my name is Nayaswami Gangamata. This is my husband, Nayaswami Daiva. If we were to think what might be the promises that the scriptures hold for us, perhaps it's a happy life, a long life, maybe a healthy body, abundance, the perfect family, perfect spiritual partner, children, etc., our preferred outcome from the elections. There could be many promises that one could expect, but as we heard, as Lorna mentioned, this beautiful reading, the one promise, and the true promise is the unconditional love of God for us, no matter what. And in this beautiful parable this morning, we know the story, the son who actually begged his father for his share of the family wealth. He goes out and he spends it. And then as we heard, when he comes back, is there any punishment? Is there any oh no, or there's none of that. The father calls for a big celebration. He asks for the best ring, the best sandals, the best robe, for the fatted calf to be killed. And this big celebration is planned for. A Sunday school teacher was trying to explain the story of the prodigal son to her students, and wishing to emphasize the resentful attitude of the elder brother upon the return of the wayward son. She laid particular stress on that part of the parable. And then she asked the class, she asked them, who could tell me in the midst of all these festivities who failed to share in the jubilant spirit of this occasion? And this little 9-year-old Olivia was listening very sympathetically to the story, and she raised her hand and she said, I know who it was. It was the fatted calf. This story of the prodigal son, you could say is our own story, isn't it? Perhaps in this lifetime or in many other lifetimes. Every week in the Festival of Light, we read about the little bird that represents our soul's journey on the path. And we read about the little bird that leaves its home and it says, I don't want the security or identification from what's giving me this life, from giving me what's the purpose. I want to go out on my own. And then we hear the story. It enters a storm cloud. It gets tossed around, right? And then it finds its way again. And then back it goes. Hours pass, night fell. It's so much represents our own journey. And sometimes we need to go into those buffeting winds. We need to have something happen to awaken us to who we really are again. And some of us, and I'm speaking for myself here, we need to have the ground shaken underneath us. I was remembering when I've shared this story, so many of you know it, but I see some new faces, so I have a captive audience. When I first moved to the West Coast, I was fresh out of college. college. I was seeking my career. I was very stressed out. Moving from the East Coast to the West Coast, I felt like I went to another planet. It was so different. But, looking for a job, looking for a home, trying to find new friends. And I discovered Ananda. Ananda had a center at the time in San Francisco. And I went and I took some meditation classes. And wouldn't you know, it helped. How could it not help? I was someone from a big city, New York City, who prided myself on how many things can I do at the same time. And when I was told I would just need to sit there and do one thing, is repeat the mantra, I am spirit, Hong Sa, I said, what? Really? And then when they told me I had to do it every day, I said, you're kidding. And then twice a day. I didn't get it at first, but fortunately, it was a 4-week class series, so you get to practice and come back, and I started to see the benefits. I could truly see that. I felt more calm. I had more concentration in the things I was doing. But then I said, I don't have time for this. I've got to find a job. I've got to find a place to live. And so I let that go. I didn't go to the next series. I just let my practice go. And it wasn't until it was 1989 in October, I had gotten my dream job. I was working on the 9th floor. For those of you who know San Francisco, there's a series of buildings called the Embarcadero Center. And I was working in number 5, closest to the bay. And I was always told these are newer buildings in the city. They're safe, they're built. They have engineering in mind, built in case an earthquake were to happen. And wouldn't you know that one day, I see some people from the Bay Area, we had an earthquake just south of the city, and it really shook all the way up to San Francisco. And because I was in these new engineered, ready for earthquakes, my building really shook like crazy. Really like crazy. And I don't know how I knew to do this being from the East Coast. We don't talk about earthquakes out there. But anyway, I got under my desk on all fours. Must have just been instinct. And I started crying. I started yelling, oh my God, oh my God. But then the very next thought, and I kid you not, that came into my mind was, I realized I didn't know who oh my God was. And then I really started yelling, oh my God, oh my God. And I have to say, that is what got me on the path. That got me going back to Ananda. I needed to get shaken so much to my core. The day after the election, we had a friend come over, and if I'm being honest, I had wanted to engage in some conversation about it. So we asked them, we said, what do you think? And then without missing a beat, they just said, well, this is why we're here. This is what we were born for. What are we doing here? We're living in community. We're here to spread that light of community, that higher consciousness. We're here to go deeper in our spiritual practices. It's like, oh, yes, of course. I was reminded of when Yogananda was alive. For many years, he talked about that the world would be going through difficult times, that there would be no safe haven on this planet. And we're seeing that for many years. It's been abroad, it's been here, it's been there, right? But then it's coming closer. And now through this election, the country is distraught. Our own city, there's things happening. There will be no safe place on the surface, on this world. The only safe place, again, is in that practice of meditation. But it has to be daily. It has to be regular. It's in those moments. What are our prodigal sons in those moments? What are we thinking of? Yogananda always said, take care of the moments. The years take care of themselves. What are we thinking of in the moments? Are we holding fear? Are we holding anger? Are we upset because somebody said something to us that we don't like? But are we holding light? Are we holding forgiveness? Are we holding friendship, kindness? What are we holding in those moments? And it's so beautiful. Again, I'm always so happy and so relieved when this topic comes back up, because it reminds us of that unconditional love. Okay, we always do. Just like when we try and do our mantra in meditation, we forget. We're doing our mantra, Hong Sa, and then, oh, I have to buy milk. That's right. Okay, Hong Sa. We do that in the everyday moments, don't we? Okay, and then we can forget. But thank God for the promise of the scriptures, is that unconditional love when we come back. But we need community. Yogananda talked about the importance of world brotherhood colonies. so we can support each other. We had a friend last night, we were out at Laurelwood last night, and we had a friend come because she had been in the city and there was just all this unrest, and she just knew she needed to come to a place where she could feel that light again, where she could feel that sense of security, or that all of us just trying to hold the true vision of community. Yogananda talked about simple living, high thinking. Live simply, let go of a lot of these things of the world. It's not that they're bad, but if we hold on to them, nothing lasts, right? We've probably seen this, nothing lasts. Cars break down, this happens, people leave that we love. Nothing happens, but the security of just simple living, sharing our resources, pooling together, and then but high thinking. Again, what are we thinking in those moments? What are our prodigal sons? Letting those go, letting them go. We just came back from a month-long trip to India, and it's the more that I get away from the trip, the more I see what a special opportunity it was. Really, I think India accelerates your spiritual growth. I see those that have gone nodding, because you get there and there's so many challenges on the surface. The noise, and it was particularly warm when we were there, and then illness comes up, and any sense of limitation just comes up. But when you're in India, there's constant reminders of the divine, of spirit, of who we really are. We're there riding in this big bus, and you always have a driver, and then you have his assistant. There's a young man that's sitting cross-legged. If the driver needs anything, he pops out, whether it's fixing the bus or moving something out of the way. But any time we would pass a temple or something, I always saw the assistant, just pausing for a moment, and you see those reminders everywhere in India, and it's so beautiful because all these things can be happening. I'm so hot, I'm getting car sick, or whatever it is. But then, the reminder of God. We were driving up to Babaji's cave, and it was a very curvy road, and I was starting to get a little bit into fear and a little car sick, and oh my gosh, and oh no. And I realized I was clutching something, and I looked down, it was the autobiography of a yogi. I was like, shoot, it's a good thing I'm holding it, because we were reading from it, It's like, yes, that's what we need to do, is hold on to that unconditional love of God, and not to worry, because we never stray far away. We're always right there. The grace of God always comes back and holds us. There's a story in the New Path where Swami Kriyananda is sitting with Yogananda one night. They're in Southern California in the desert. They're looking out at the beautiful stars. And just seemingly out of the blue, Yogananda asks Swami Kriyananda, why doesn't the earth just spin off into space? And Swami Kriyananda says, because it's the gravity of the sun that holds it in its place. Well, then Yogananda asks, why doesn't the earth then just get absorbed into the sun? And Swami Kriyananda says it's the centrifugal force of the earth that keeps it away. And Yogananda then just drops this subject. And Swami Kriyananda later realized he wasn't just asking for an explanation of the planetary movements. He was really giving a lesson on why we never really stray that far away. Because the Son of God is always pulling us towards Him. The grace of God is always pulling us towards them, towards Him, towards Divine Mother. But then you could think, why don't we merge into that consciousness? What's holding us back? It's that centrifugal force of karma, habits, all those things that hold us back. The small self of us, a small self that wants to get into, we know what it is. It varies between amongst us, but we know what those things are, the smaller things. So it's those things that hold us back. But living in community, supporting each other in these efforts, we remember. And if we can remember how much we are loved, as saints said, if we only knew how much we are loved by God, we would die for joy. The masters are there for us. But they say to us, open your heart to me. Okay? That's what they say to us. Open your heart. This is where it starts, in the heart. The heart, the mind will follow whatever the heart feels, right? If we can open our heart. And then what do they promise us? I will enter and take charge of your life. I will enter. They promise they will be there. They don't say, well, okay, we'll think about it, sometimes when you come to church or whatever. I will enter, and I'll take charge of your life. And it's a promise. It's a promise to us. And then for us to live in that light, and especially in these times. We've come to the time now that perhaps maybe this is what Yogananda was talking about. I don't know. It's been going on for a while, more and more. Our affirmation, our moral vigor, the responsibility that we have to step forward as children of the light and share that light together, praying for peace and harmony together, being those most perfect instruments, channels of light to the world that is so needed right now. So anyway, thank you all. God bless you all as we continue on our journey to self-realization. Oh, I had a reading, but okay, I'll do it. Sorry. So this one is number 209. It's in the Temple of United Hearts. I thought this would be good for this morning. Divine Mother, may I feel thy heartthrobs in my own heart, thy joy in my happiness, thy wise direction in all my activity, thy spirit in my soul. Divine Mother, I lay all the flowers of my love at thy feet of eternity. Oh, open wide the flowers of my budding devotion, and release thy fragrance, that it may spread from my soul to the souls of others, ever whispering of thee. I pray to behold my love reflected in others. In the light of that greater love, may I behold thine unveiled face of perfect compassion. May I behold my true self in others, that I perceive thee ever enthroned in our united hearts. At the heart of my whispered prayers I feel stirring thy silent whispers. In the light of my burning candle of devotion, I behold at last thy sacred blaze of perfect love. O Divine Mother, unite our hearts as one heart, so that on the sacred altar of united hearts we may find thine omnipresence enthroned forever. Om. Peace. Amen. And now we'll have some music.